I started doing drag officially. My first performance was near my 15th birthday. And it was because a friend of mine who I went to school with did drag on occasion and was just decided to do like a local show, like a variety show, and asked me if I would do it because I was into makeup. I would wear makeup to like social events and do stuff like that, and I had never really done a full head to toe look. As soon as I found out there was an excuse to put a wig and some heels on and get on stage, I was like, this is a job, okay. And then, 15-year-old me getting $25 to do a number, I was like, wow, I'm employed. Like, it was that just has since spiraled into, still 15-year-old me doing drag today. When I started doing makeup, drag, I didn't know there was a word for it when I started, because I was like, honestly, when I started doing makeup, I was probably like 8 or 9. At that point, I did not know there were YouTube tutorials. It was just me finding makeup in my mother's room and staying up at night, putting on a face, taking it off, putting in another face, taking it off, and then being exhausted the next morning and trying to stay home from school because I stayed up all night putting makeup on. I didn't really benefit from learning that trick of the trade from anybody else, which I think has been a huge advantage to me, because I feel like as a result of that, I have such an individual style of drag because I found it for myself. Whereas a lot of queens who are starting today have the YouTube tutorials, and it's kind of a paint by numbers. So they may be very talented, but you start to see a lot of really young queens today looking like one another as a result from YouTube videos. So, advice that I have for young queens starting is don't watch a tutorial, figure it out for yourself. It does not have to be pretty. You don't have to post it anywhere. No one has to see you. Put it on, take it off, put it on, take it off, over and over and over again until you find something that you're passionate about. That being said, I did have the advantage of my mom being a costume designer, which didn't really come into play until I was like 16, and I was like a vintage queen. I would only wear like 40s and 50s outfits. My mom had a cedar closet in our basement full of vintage dresses and accessories and hats and gloves and purses and all this stuff. So I had that at my disposal. And that turned into me having ideas and her getting behind the sewing machine little by little, whether it was, making a veil for me for a bride look or making a skirt for me to go over a top. And that turned into me designing full looks. And she can fully execute the puzzle like I've never seen it done before. Every single thing that I wear, she makes.
You mentioned on your Meet the Queens that Jessica Lange, American Horror Story Season 3 is some of the inspiration for your name. I don't know if you like Jessica Lange, if you like American Horror Story.
Well, at the time, American Horror Story was my end-all be-all. I was just obsessed with like witches and like spooky things, and I was like at that age where a lot of things could influence everything that I did. And so it just so happened that at the time I was trying to generate my drag persona, which had a different name to begin with, and then I changed it to Gigi Goode, obviously because of Fiona Goode and Cordelia Goode of American Horror Story. Not to pull a plastique or anything, but I was not really aware of like pop stars and stuff like that growing up because my mom only really listened to like Donny Osmond and NPR. So my references stem a lot from like children's books and from like movies and television and like very Wizard of Oz and The Carpenters. I'm such a control freak when it comes from the neck up. And so I've never let anybody put makeup on me. I've never let anybody style hair for me. I think that the foundation of drag originally is making diamonds from dust. And that is so important to me still. I'm going to be really busy soon. I'm going to be on the road, but I am still going to find time to sit behind a sewing machine and create things that I'm proud of. Visuals are the most important aspect of drag to me, but I do not like to rely on that because my drag is also just really crazy on all over the place when it comes to performances. And I think that there's a box that a fashionable queen gets put into, and I definitely, break through the cardboard walls of that whenever I'm on stage. I like the shock value. I like getting on stage and people thinking, okay, well, she's just gonna walk back and forth and hopefully know her words. And, in reality, I'm just, flapping my arms like a spaghetti noodle and my jaw is on the floor and, I'm not afraid to look stupid.
What's your approach to lip syncing then?
I find that the most important thing for a drag queen to do when lip syncing is to know every single word of the song. My lip syncing, I strive to make it look like the sound is coming out of my mouth. You know, I just listen to a song. My roommate hates me for it because I listen to a song over and over and over and over and over again until it's coming from my own mouth. So once I have the song memorized, then it's usually all improv from there.
We are the best queens in the world, but I'm the one to beat.
Who's your toughest competition on the show? Like, when you walked in that room day one, who were you like, uh-oh?
After the first day of filming had happened, I realized my biggest competition on the show was myself, because I was not prepared for the storm of talent and just ability that there was. Because, you know, we're all big fishes where we come from, but not once we enter that workroom. So it was a big reality check, and I realized that I have a lot of struggles within to fight for.
We have seen the judges from the new season online. Even from what we saw online, anyone that you were like, oh shit. I mean, even like Nicki Minaj is in episode 1.
Well, I think for anybody, seeing that AOC is on there, is pushing a lot of boundaries.
Join the Revolution. I'm Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and I pledge allegiance to the drag.
The fact that she appeared in the latest trailer is like, oh my God, how it's like, what could she possibly be judging on that episode, and what's she gonna say? Like, what are her views on drag? That is one, and another one that is so wild to me is Whoopi, because like, I mean, like, the words of wisdom is enough to like push you as far as you can go internally. RuPaul's Drag Race has provided a platform for this art that we do that is unlike anything that's ever been seen before. Prior to Drag Race, queens would do drag solely for the enjoyment and be doing it 4 gigs a day, 6 days a week, just so that they could afford the rent. But it was the only thing that, and I can relate to this, it's the only thing that we're good at, Every aspect of drag is like the only abilities I'm capable of. I dropped out of college. I am borderline incompetent. Like, I just have so much passion for every single element that goes into drag. So, having RuPaul's Drag Race as something that is so formative in a career is beyond a wildest dream.
I pledge allegiance to the drag,
To the drag
of the United Queens of RuAmerica, and to the crown for which we fight.